And then all of a sudden he said, but why are you not wanting to go to another teacher when you feel you want to go ahead?
How old were you then?
I was about 21.
So I'm just repeating. You were 12 or something like 14. You saw Joan taking singing lessons with Herbert.
I love it.
With Herbert, what's his name? Herbert Tilbury.
Yeah.
And then when you also started taking singing lessons and you came home and Joan helped you.
Yes, she just listened to me.
Just listened to you. And after a while, your parents said, Althea wants to take singing lessons when you were 16, something. And they paid for you and you were starting to work and said, Mom and Dad, I want to pay my singing lessons myself.
Well, Mom and Dad said to me that we can't afford the singing lessons. And I knew that I have to pay them, that's all.
Okay.
And when I did this, I finally, when I was 20 or something, I said to this guy, he said, he gave me for my birthday a lesson at Termin with Marianne, his teacher.
Marianne Mathy.
Yeah. And I didn't want to go, but as I was brought up well, I couldn't say I don't want that present. I had to accept the present and go there. And he did this on purpose so I would go there. And I went to her and I had my teeth clenched together. Thinking, I'm not going to this woman. And 5 minutes after I was with her, she said, come on, I want to hear you sing. And I thought, I'll sing badly. So I did. And then she said to me, now you're tense. Relax now, and I want you to sing the same what you just sang. And then all of a sudden I realized, Althea, you're an idiot. This woman knows what she's talking about. And she gave me the best lesson. I can still remember that lesson. The best lesson. I was so enthralled. And my friend was also very happy that what he had done was working, you see. And that was when I had the job of telling Bert that I didn't want to come to him anymore. And I was really scared of doing this. And then my mum said, Althea, it's always best to go to him and be honest. So I went to meet him, and I said, Bert, I would like to go a little bit ahead with my singing. And now I've discovered this teacher. And he said to me, Althea, you're absolutely right. I can only take you to a certain stage, and more I can't teach you.
Fantastic teacher.
Yes, he really was. It was a fantastic person. He was also a dirigent. And because Mum and Dad used to sing in his choir, you see. Mm. So this is why we're all friends. And that's how it all came. And he followed my career, and he said, you did the absolute right thing.
And Marianne...
with Marianne.
Mathy?
Yes, Mathy.
She was Jewish, right?
She was French, German, and she had Jewish. That's why she came to Australia.
Because of the war. And
she was in the airplane when the war broke out.
Yeah.
When she to do concerts there, and when she arrived in Sydney,
did she?
She was not allowed to sing.
Oh, that's what was my question. Did she sing in Sydney?
No.
Never?
No. She sang very much in Europe. And when I won this contest, afterwards, all of the adjudicators and us were invited to eat in a restaurant.
How do you spell Mathy? Marianne?
M-A-R-T-H-Y.
Marianne or Marianna?
Marianne.
Okay.
And she said, I don't know what I want to say.
She gave you singing lessons, and she was coming from France and Germany, and
Yes.
she left.
And then after being quite many years with her, and then I got into the opera.
Through her.
As a solo.
How did you get the first engagement in an opera in Sydney, right?
I was singing Donna Elvira in the Conservatorium. She taught also
of Sydney.
Yeah. And they did one complete opera a year.
Wait a minute. Marianne Mathy gave you singing lessons,
yes.
But then you started also taking singing lessons in the conservatorium.
Yeah, because Marianne taught there also.
Okay.
And then she said, you have to audition for Don Giovanni. So I did an audition, and I got it. We have 4 performances, and we is a lot of 2 of a whole opera of a certain role, and I became the first performance of the first cast of Donna Elvira, and it was a big success. The director of the opera of the Conservatorium, he just absolutely adored my voice. He took me on many concerts to Melbourne, as a matter of fact. He was a dirigent also. A very, very nice guy. And he heard me sing. He said, you are fabulous. And the producer was the director of the opera, Stefan Haag, this Viennese guy. And when he directed it, he said to me, he came up to me and he said, would you like to sing in the opera? And I said, what do you mean? He said, if I offered you a role and you would have to sing in the beginning in the chorus of Don Giovanni, La Traviata, Falstaff, and what was the other one? Marriage of Figaro. And he said you would sing the understudy of the Cherubino, componist, for our, which was a wonderful role for me. And it's only one act I have to sing. I don't sing in the second act. I'm the one that writes the opera, you see. And it's a very, very difficult role to sing. And Stefan knew this, and he said, I want you as a componist to sing the componist because it's written supposed to be a mezzo, but he said they can't get the top notes. And I want somebody with that warm voice that sings and young enough to play the componist. She's a young componist, you see. And I didn't know the role at all, and I found out what it was all about. And I sang the rehearsals, and I was supposed to sing the second cast of the woman in Falstaff, which I was too young for, actually. I was much too young for it, but I said, yeah, okay. So I did all the rehearsals, and they got a star. She was an Australian girl who came out and sang the premiere and all the performances. Forget about singing that role, he said, because you are too young. Well, we started off in Adelaide, and he didn't give me the componist. He was having an affair with this other girl, and the director. And I thought, well, I can't fight against this. I just have to put up with it. And she got slated as she wasn't a componist. A good singer. She was very good for Mozart, but not for the componist. Her voice was not strong enough. But he put her into the premiere, and she got slated. And I thought I would never sing the componist because he was still having this affair with her. And then he said, you will be singing componist in Melbourne, in a house for 2,000 people. And I mean, when you stood up in the back of this theatre and looked at the stage, it looked like a postage stamp. That was how big it was. And I my teacher Marianne came down to Melbourne. She said, "You're going to show Stefan Haag that you really are a great componist." And I said, "Well, I'll try to do my best." And there was a guy who was out there to sing the FALSTAFF from America, Norman something. And he came up to me and said, "Can I give you some tips?" And I said, "Of course, I'm a young singer and I would like any tips that would help me." And he said, "You sing this role so beautifully." He said, "And you look great, but you walk like a woman." And I said, "Well, I am a woman." He said, "Yes, but I'll give you the tip. Think you've got something between your legs. And how would you walk if you had something in between your legs? And then you walk like a man." And it worked. And I went up to him and said, "It really does work. I just have to think about it." He said, "Jessie, I knew that you had never been told about this." Well, I sang the premiere and I got rave reviews. I mean, and Stefan was a little bit uncomfortable because he had this girl friend and he was married to a woman who I knew and I liked very much, actually. I was very disappointed, but it's not my business. I didn't say anything to anybody, not even to the wife of him. And finally, I thought, well, I've sung the role now and I know what it's all about. And I probably won't ever get the chance to sing again whilst he's having this affair. And I travelled then I had to then fall into understudy from the what was that? Elvira in Melbourne also. And he said, and whilst I was singing this, he came into my garderobe and he said, "I know I told you not to learn the main mole in Falstaff, but do you think you could learn it again?" And because I sang in the chorus of it, I knew it anyway. He said, "To sing it." And I said, "Oh, yes, by the time I reach Sydney, maybe I'll be able to." He said, "No, übermorgen."
The day after tomorrow. Yeah.
And I said, "But Stefan, that is a little bit too much, isn't it?" Well, I learned it and I sang it, but there's a thing at the end of the Falstaff called the Fuga, and it is musically one of the most difficult things to sing for all singers. And they all sing together and this "Love is a stage where on each," and then somebody else comes in. And you have to give a core to the O's. And I said, "Well, I don't think I can learn that by heart. But do you know that for that long a while I got through it?" And they were all, "How did you do it?" I said, "I don't know. I just went ahead and sang." And everything I sang was right. And they all were happy. And this guy said to me, for this bass baritone, he was a real character. He said, "Althea, I was very disappointed with you." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you sang all the right notes." And he confused me. He said, "The other singer, she made all the mistakes in the world." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I did, but I just sang it. You know, I think it was being in the corps, I could hear it. And having worked on the role before she came, I knew the role through until then. And then Stefan said to me, he said, "You are so musical." He said, "I've never known a singer who has done what you have done in Melbourne." I then got to Sydney and I travelled with the aeroplane down because I had to do something in Sydney and I had to use the aeroplane. And then I thought, I'll go into the theatre and see when I have to start rehearsals. So I walked into the theatre and I stood there and I looked at the Ariadne of NAXOS, and componist Althea Bridges. And loudly I said, that cannot be true. I didn't think I would do it. I thought Stefan would put his girlfriend in there. But he didn't. I must say I died for doing it. But I think the romance had ended, that was why. I guess so. And behind me was this guest. You must know him. He did the film, The Red Shoes. Oh, what was his name? He was world famous. An Australian who went to England and made a world career. He also then went to America. He made films. He made records. Everything he did. I mean, he was the most wonderful guy, and he was there to do the regie for Carmen, which was also one of the operas that were playing, and he was so hilarious. As a matter of fact, in Melbourne, we had a party, well, a thing to meet the press. And this ballet dancer was a friend of mine. And what was his name? And she said, you must meet this man. He was her best friend. And she said, you and him will get on very well together. I said, how would you? I'm nothing to what he is, you know. He was a world star. And he stood there at his press conference. And we just stood there with the champagne in our hands. And he walked up to him. Of course, he was well known. Mr. What was his name? I forget the name. And he said, I believe you're here to do the regie to the ballet about, it was an Australian animal that raped a girl. It was a very strange story, but he did the most wonderful ballet. And he just stood there and he said, yes. That was all he said. He said, yes, we have heard that she's doing the premiere. Yes. What is this ballet all about? Sex. He said. And this guy, he was the biggest nut on two legs. He said, we have heard it's about sex. Yes. And he said to him, what was his name? I thought I would get it back again. Do you think sex is artistic? Every time I have had sex, it has been most artistic. I thought I'd drop my champagne. I got the giggles. I could not stop laughing. After that moment, I just turned around to him and said, after you said that, I said, you've got my love. I said, you are fabulous. And my girlfriend, she laughed. She said, I knew you two would get on well together. And he then, when I was in Sydney, I said, this cannot be true. And he walked in behind me and said, if he didn't do that, my dear, he would have shown he was the biggest idiot as an intendant in this theatre. And I turned around and it was him. And I laughed my head off and said, I've never, ever been through, I never thought I'd ever live this. I said, I really didn't think that I would get this role. He said, you were the only one that could sing it. That other girl can't sing it. Maybe she was good in bed, but she can't sing. He was a screamer guy. I've never met a man. He came up one day. I went into the rehearsal of Carmen, and I thought I have to go in and see what he does with Carmen. And the Carmen had the orchestra, and she had something wrong with her throat, and walked off the stage. And the orchestra played on the aria. So all of a sudden he had gone round there, found a big long red rose, put a hat on, and came onto the stage and danced the whole aria. I've never seen. He did the film, The Red Shoes. He was very famous in Australia. A very interesting man. I mean, he was in Covent Garden. He did so many ballets as a character ballet dancer. He was not a classical ballet dancer. It was mostly character roles he danced. And here he was on the stage there with this great big rose and just danced the whole aria through. He got more applause than anybody else, I think. Was a very good time with him, I must say. I can't can't remember his name now.
But that was all in Australia, right?
Yes, in the first year of my opera in Australia.
And when did the time come when they said you have to do this competition in Munich?
That was my teacher. She had nothing to do with the opera. I decided after doing 3 seasons in the opera in Australia.
In Sydney?
We
Sydney.
did many different roles.
Yeah.
And I thought, I need to go overseas. And Marianne always wanted me to go overseas. And I was 28, and I thought, if I don't do it now, I'm going to be too old, you know. So Marianne talked me into going overseas. And she said, when you get there, I had worked at that I went and stayed with Maureen. She was working in Geneva at the time. So I went to Greece with the boat and travelled to Italian. With the train, I went up then into Switzerland. And then I stayed there, and she had melded me in this contest. And she bought me, she said, now we're going into a model show. I want you to just have a look at a few evening dresses.
But she didn't go with you.
She?
Marianne Mathy didn't go with you.
No.
Who was that? Was Maureen or what?
Nobody went with me. I went alone. I went completely alone on the boat and alone to
Switzerland.
Maureen.
Yeah, to Maureen and then to Switzerland.
And then Maureen was in Switzerland. And I stayed with Maureen about, I think, 2 weeks. And I had to drive then to Munich for this contest. And I didn't really want to do it. I said to Maureen, I just find this is a waste of time because I've never won a contest in Australia because I was not in with all the rich people. And she had she said, you have to go. And she paid for it all. Not only that, she bought me
Maureen paid for it all.
No, Marianne.
Okay, well,
paid for getting into it. She paid it all. And then when in Australia, she bought me this beautiful evening dress. It was very Greek. It was a beautiful dress.
Blue, red, green, or what color?
It was like a color between pink and orange. Okay. It was a very Greek thing. I could put it over my shoulder or put it around it. It was really beautiful. And I felt like $1 million in it, I must say. And then I went into the contest, and the first time I sang, I had to pay to stay in the young,
Jugendherberge.
Boys.
Jugendherberge.
Yes. What there's a special name for it? YWCA.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And it was for men, but apparently it was all empty, and we had rooms, and I had my own room. I mean, it was not very beautiful, but it was a room. Maureen did come and visit me, and she stayed in the same room on a couch. And I sang the 3 first heats of my own choice. You have to have 9 arias in original languages and 4 complete operas. And I had the 4 operas because I was in the opera house, you see. But I had to work on having 9 really arias and 1 modern aria. So I put companies down because at that stage it was very modern. And I sang 3 pieces, and then you go off the stage. I don't tell anybody from the TOSCA realm what happens. They read the newspaper apparently the next day. And you sit there and wait till they all have sung, And this woman comes with a book on over her arm, and she said, this person and this person, this person and this person is not, we don't need to hear you anymore. And my name was not amongst it. And I said to her, are you sure my name is not amongst that? No, you go further. And she put me to, you have to then learn to sing 3 arias from your choice that the judges choose. And one of them I didn't know very well. And I said to my pianist, who was American, I said, I have to work on this bloody aria. I said, because we didn't work on it. We didn't have time in Australia to work on it very much. And he said, well, come on. When he worked on it with me, and I sang this aria and the other 2 arias, I can't remember what they were. And I sang them in the same procedure. I came off the stage, sit there, and you wait until everybody has sung. And then she came again, and she said all these 3 names, and said, you don't need to come back home anymore. And I thought, gee whiz, I've come so far. And I asked her again, I said, are you really sure my name is not amongst it? No, she said, you go straight to the Hauptprobe. And others had to sing in between times. I didn't know all this, you see, because they always spoke German, and I didn't speak one word of German. And I was sitting there waiting. I thought, my God, I've got to the Hauptprobe. So I rang my mother and I said, ring Marianne and say I've got to the Hauptprobe.
Main rehearsal, yeah.
I won't probably come any further. And then I was with the orchestra. And this little tiny dirigent and
conductor.
I can't remember his name. Stefan worked with him after. He liked him very much.
Stefan who?
Stefan Cialis.
No, Cialis is my cousin, Mummy. Stefan
Cialis.
He worked with him.
Yes, afterwards. He said, oh yes, I'm in the academy in Vienna.
Okay, good.
He was teaching, you see.
Okay.
Although he actually came from Munich. And he was a brilliant man. He didn't conduct, he just stood and like this. And I can tell you, he came to Linz also. And he was just, they loved him, you know. And he then said to me, many years afterwards, I met him, and he said, you caused me a big night's sleep. And I said, well, why? He said, because you sang the Componists. And he said, we didn't have the part for it, and I had to sit for 2 nights and write all the parts for the orchestra. And I laughed my head off when he was here. He told me all about this. He said, I can never forget you. He said, but I must say you were wonderful. And I said, well, that's nice to, of course, hear. And then we went off the stage, and they came up with this was on the stage. We went into another room and waited until the whole people had sung. And then the 8 finalists were not named. And I was one of them. And I thought, I never thought I would ever get this far, you know. And I was very grateful for that. And then after I sang, he came off the stage because he had to play for other people. And he said, I think you've done very well. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to win it. So we all had to go into this very big room. And on the one side was full of people and a man with a big book or full of books. And he spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke. On the other side, there was the instrumentalists, and then all the singers. And this black guy, he made a big world career, he really was convinced he was going to win it. And I stood there and I had a pair of shoes on with this beautiful dress. I had a pair of shoes on, and at the back of them, they were very expensive. It was with elastic. And whilst I was standing there and this heat, because they were heating, and my foot swore up, and I said to Erwin, can you get down underneath my dress and just put your finger in and take that down so I can take those shoes off? So I took them off. He did this for me. We were giggling our heads off, of course. And I said to Erwin, my God, I said, this man talks. He said, Althea, Germans, when they get a chance to talk, they talk, and they talk long. Well, I think he must have talked about 3/4 of an hour, and I couldn't understand one word he was saying. Nothing. I had no idea what he was talking about. I thought I heard somehow my name mentioned, but I thought, oh, I'm out of it, you know. And there I stood and waited, and I said to her, my God, I said, I can't stand this. At least they could have given us a place to sit. And finally he finished. And this whole show was all the adjudicators. That was the first time we saw them, because they were at the back of this room with glass, and they could see us, we couldn't see them. And then they all came over, and then they looked at me, and I thought, took my hand, they said, "Congratulire." What's that for a word in German? And Erwin had gone away, so he couldn't tell me what it was. So I stood there and I heard everybody came up and they said, "Congratulire." And I thought, well, they're very polite, but for what? What is this word? I had no idea what it was they were saying. And then the English adjudicator came up to me and he said, I'm representing Australia because, although I'm English, because they have not an Australian consulate here, but he said, I don't really think you know what has happened. I could hear this beautiful, typical English voice, and I said, no, what has happened? He said, I didn't think you knew. You have won this prize, the first Australian ever, and secondly, the first prize that's not been given for 8 years.
8 years.
And I just stood there. I said, what did you say? You have been the winner. And I screamed out so loud, was? And the whole people, they laughed and applauded because they didn't realize I didn't speak German. And I said, oh, I have to quickly go and ring my mother. And this woman who used to always say, this one and this one is not to say, she came and said, come with me, you can ring from our office. So I rang my mother and I rang Marianne. And of course it was night time in Australia, and they were really thrilled. The next day I was in every newspaper, a big photograph of Mum and Dad holding a picture of me.
Yeah, that's in your photo album,
yes,
which I made for you.
Yeah.
Wow, what a story.
It was such a shock. I never thought I would go any further. I was really convinced I was wonderful getting that far. And then I won it.
What a wonderful story.
Yes, it was. And then to get the prize, Erwin said to me, you get at the television are coming to take the people getting their prizes for this contest. It was not only me, it was others. And I said, yes. He said, well, did you get 2 tickets? And I said, yes, I did. He said, can you use it? I said, no, I don't know anybody here. He said, could you give it to me? Because I have a friend who's in Vienna and he's coming together with my wife to see the finals concert. And so I sat there, and who was this person that he came was Ulfa. That's how I met Ulfa. And he had a hole in his shoe, in the top of his shoe. And he said, I hope I can be shown anywhere. He said, I do have a hole in my shoe. And I had offered him some lollies, which I had in my bag. And he thought, oh, she's offering me lollies because I have a bad birth. But wasn't. And then he and this baritone, who got only 3rd prize, and he was disgusted. And he had all these girlfriends, black guy, had all these girlfriends, and he walked around with a Bible under his hand. And he had all these girlfriends, and it costed him money, you see, to take them out. And he didn't have any money to get back to Berlin. And he was then.
But that was not the same evening, right?
Yes, because we got in my car, which I bought from Maureen, and we traveled all around the nightclubs around in Munich. I mean, we had a great ball, actually. And these 2 were in frock. And I was in a long dress. We ended up at this bunny club. We were dancing we were the sensation for the bunny club. You can't imagine. And I laughed my head off because I was the only woman and I had to dance with them all. Oh, it was hysterically funny. Really, we had such a ball. And I got into the car and I got the giggles. I couldn't stop laughing because I could see the funny side of it all. Here I said, well, I'm glad you got one woman. I said, I would have thought you were a bunch of homosexuals. Well, we went all around different clubs I mean, you can't imagine. First of all, we had gone to a big fest that they had made where they entertain the Queen when they come, they always entertain them in this big saal. And you walk down the stairs, you feel like about $100 million, of course.
Yeah.
And the whole right side was full, a big table, full of everything you could eat or drink. I've never seen anything like it. They had a pig on a spit on the table. I was my God, I said, they must have a lot of money to be able to afford this. And you could take a plate and cut the food off what you wanted. Well, all the agents came. After this was when I was together with, I met Ulfa. And Ulfa said, oh my God, I'm not dressed for this. He was dressed like a student. And he was doing a course of explaining to the university how they managed to bring up for Körperbehindered children and people.
Spastics and
yeah. Because Denmark was the first home that was known, and that was well known, and it was so well known they sent Ulfa down to Vienna to do these Sprache thing. And that was why he was in Vienna. And he knew Erwin, because Erwin did a concert in Copenhagen and got to meet Ulfa. And he said, well, when you're in Vienna, ring me up and come and stay with us. But he didn't do that. He had got a room through the university, so he took the room. He said, because I didn't know when I was going to come and go, you see. And it was then that he, all of a sudden, he said to me one day, I want you to come into the bedroom, I have to tell you something. And when I went into the bedroom, he said, you know what? He said, I've fallen totally in love with you. And I looked, I can remember looking, I said, I really haven't had time to think about that. He laughed his head off. He said, I just love the way you react. You're so quick. Well, I guess I've learned that. I don't know. I said, I have no idea. And at the moment, I didn't think about being in love with anybody. I didn't certainly come over to Europe to marry or have a boyfriend. I thought, well, maybe a boyfriend is okay. But to marry? And then after a while, we were together for quite a long time. And we were always, he was always with me.
What?
And
When was the first kiss?
I can't remember. I really can't. I think it was in the bedroom one night. He kissed me, yes. And he asked me, could he kiss me? I said, well, if you want. But gradually I fell in love with him also. And I thought, just watch out, Althea, you really didn't come over here and spend all that money to get married. And he said, I want you to come to Vienna for Christmas. And I thought, well, I haven't got anything else to do.
To Vienna?
To Copenhagen for Christmas, to my parents. And I thought, well, I have nothing else. So I said, I really can't do it because I said, I'd like to spend Christmas with Maureen. She can come too. So Maureen came also. And that's why we spent Christmas, our first Christmas together.
That was 1965. Wow.
And we then got engaged very quickly. And then we got married in April.
1965?
66.
66 in April, yeah.
Yeah. And we were married on the 9th and 26th and the 26th, and I had to come to Vienna.
29th and 30th, yeah.
Because for the Vienna Festival, I had to, for the summer, this play called The Schwarze Spinner in Theater on the Wien.
The Black Widow. Is it in English the Black Widow or the Black Spider? Die schwarze Spinne.
Schwarze Spinne. Was the name.
By whom?
It was a terrible opera, actually.
By whom?
What?
Who composed it?
I can't remember. It was an unknown composer, and while it was in the Vienna Festival, it was very much blown up. And I must really be honest, I had a wonderful role in it, but the rest of the roles were difficult to sing and not very interesting to play.
Mm.
This main role was wonderful to act, and fortunately I got wonderful critics for it. This young singer from Australia shows what people, and you can understand everything she sings. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed reading. It's the first time we've heard a singer with a beautiful voice that we can understand. I don't know why, but anyway. And so Ove came down for the premiere, and then he left, and I can't remember what happened after that. I think I went to Graz. I had sung for Graz, and they wanted me to be engaged in Graz. And anyway, whilst I was in Vienna at that stage, Erwin knew Dr. Raab, the big agent And he said, you have to sing for him. I said, I know him because the baritone that sang FALSTAFF in Graz also knew him. And he said, when you come to Vienna, you must ring me and I want you to make, I know him very well. But I finally rang him, or I think Erwin rang him, and said, she'll come and sing for you. He said, no, don't worry about it. You've got a beautiful grand piano, and he was a wonderful pianist. He said, I'll come and hear her there. So he came, and he was sitting in this big room, and he was sitting right away from me, and he said, I'd like to hear the aria you sang at the contest, which was Lady Macbeth, and I love to sing this aria. So I sang it for him, and he applauded. And I said to him, well, what else would you like to hear? He said, from you, I don't want to hear anything more. Have you got time, he said, to get a tour with the Vienna Academy Choir in Messias und Samatazione als Soloist? Started with the Bruno Orchestra, and then you all go to do a tour of Italian. And I thought, gee, I'll see how Italian, and I don't have to pay for it, you know.
Italy.
and I thought, this is wonderful. And I really enjoyed it. And during this was when they rang me, the agent rang me and said, we're sending the woman down, my secretary will come with the train. You have this train when it arrives. She'll bring you the score of, what was it?
Prometheus.
No. The score of, no, that was later. He said, you have to travel to Graz, take 2 or 3 days away from the trip, and you come to Graz and you sing for the intendant there. Because they need to sing it urgently. That was right, was the score of ATTILA. And I didn't know what ATTILA was, but it's an old Verdi opera which very rarely ever gets played. And he said they are playing it. And they had a person there, but they found out she was lying to them, so he sacked her. And they're looking for a singer, and you would be ideal. And I said, well, I don't know the opera. And he said, well, I'll send this secretary, take the book, and then she comes back. And so I did this, and then amongst the Venus Academy Corps was a guy who did Repetition and was a good player. And he said, I'll help you, and I won't charge anything for it. I'll be glad to just work with you. And so we worked together on the aria, 2 arias actually. And the first aria was very difficult, it's very coloratura. But I managed this. And then I went to Vienna, tried to get an aeroplane, and there was such a fog, the aeroplanes didn't go. So I had to drive to somewhere else in Italian, and this person took me with a car to some place where I could finally get a plane to Graz. And this happened when I got to Graz, the intendant was not there. It was in Vienna. And I rang Rob and I said, what on earth am I going to do? I can't take too much time off. And so, don't worry, I'll organise it. And he then got me he came down and picked me up, took me to Vienna, and I sang then for this intendant. And the intendant said, I only want to hear one aria. You've got the role. And I said, oh. So then I got a vertrag for 3 months to sing this premiere. which was from January, February, March. I'd spend New Year's Eve with Orpha, and then drive straight went with the plane to Graz, and then I started the rehearsals on the 2nd of this opera. And this was a huge success for me. I mean, our first aria, to sing that aria was really exciting. It's full of coloratures, but it's a real, you hate this man, you hate Ursula, and you sing it, through this aria and these coloratures. It was wonderful to sing. And Orpha came down to the premiere, and his plane was late. So by the time he got to Graz, he was too late. And he walked they picked him up to the Inundated, sent a taxi to the railway station and brought him down. He had travelled by plane to Vienna and came with the taxi they came with a taxi for him. And he met the Inundated, and he said, "You come with me, you stay with the Inundated Loge. It's a beautiful opera house." He said, "You can stay with it and sit with there and listen." And as he walked in, he said, "That is the applause for your wife. She just sang that aria, and you should have heard it." He said, "She's wonderful." The people went crazy, and that was all he heard was the applause. And then I sang the rest of the aria, the Ganzen Opera. And I had this guy playing ATTILA, and he was, where did he come from? I don't think it was China or somewhere like that, but a gorgeous looking man with a body on him. He was really sexy. And to play with him was a great joy. I mean, he was such an ATTILA, you couldn't have got a better, and it sang like a dream. A bass baritone. He was a lovely guy, and we became very good friends actually, because he and his wife were such lovely people, and so Orpha got to know him also, but then Orpha had to go back to Denmark, you see. And then after that, before the premiere, the intendant called me and he said, "I want to make a vertrag for you for next year."
Contract.
A contract. And I said, "Oh, I don't know if I have to talk to my agent." I said, "I think the best thing is to talk to him." So we talked to the agent, and the agent had rang me and he said, "Althea, you've got a very good vertrag."
Contract.
Yeah, contract. So I was very happy that I thought, well, Graz is nice and I like to live there. I had a nice apartment, which Orpha came down and renovated because it was really awful. Rob saw it and he said, "This is a terrible apartment." And I said, "Well, wait until Orpha is finished with it, it'll look different." And he really renovated that apartment. That was really lovely, I must say. And it was right next door to the opera. So I didn't have far to go. That was where Orpha used to go and get semmel or something. And he would walk down, and across the road was a conditorei. Orpha could not walk by a conditorei. And there was a dish that came out onto the street. And so I could go out there and see what he was doing. And I couldn't understand why it was such a long time. I thought he'd go to the marketplace, it's only just around the corner. And he was, that's such a long time. And then the next day, he said, "I'm going to get semmel again." And I thought, I'll watch what he's doing. And I watched, and he walked down this side of the road. And then when he got to the conditorei, he walked across there. And he was so long there, eating torta.
Cake.
The whole time. Cakes. And then he went across a bank again. I thought, that big ass going supposed to be buying rolls for our breakfast, and he was eating cakes. And then he came out and then went to the marketplace. The people in the marketplace loved him because he was so tall and he looked really Danish, of course. And when he came back in the door, I was on the 4th floor, and I said, well, are you wanting to have a seminar? He said, yes, of course, it's breakfast. I said, well, how many cakes have you just eaten? How do you know I was eating 10 cakes? I said, through that little dish I ate there. I said, I watched the whole time you went. I said, did you do the same yesterday? He went red in his face. He said, yes, I'm afraid I love those cakes. He could not walk by a conditorei. Not at all.
Ein Lied geschrieben von John Lennon. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living a life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And hope someday you join us, and the world will be one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people living a life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
But it was very interesting. I mean, so much happened since I arrived. Maureen said to me, my God, she said, you to waste time with life. I said, it's not that I wanted it, it's just happen that way. It was like Schicksal had taken over my life, you know?
Mm.
I mean, how I come in January, June, and already by before Christmas time, I had a job going a tour. And then, so after that, I was in the Opera House in Graz. I mean, it just was quite crazy, actually. But it was very interesting, I must say. It's cozy with all those lights here.
It's beautiful. What time is it now?
Beg your pardon?
What time is it now?
It must be after 10. I don't know. I can't see.
I think I have to go to bed. Oh, it's 11:45.
Oh, you better get to bed soon.
Yep.
Do you want to drink that?